Our next guest is Steve Hochberg, Chief Market Analyst at Elliott Wave International. In this segment, Steve and I talked about the Elliott Wave principle, and I first asked him where we are in terms of the Elliott Wave Grand Supercycle. Here's what he had to say.
The Grand Supercycle is in a bear market since 2000. We had a couple of waves down within this bear market, one ending in 2002, and then, of course, the one that ended in 2009, where the Dow lost 54% of its value from 2007 to 2009. We've been in what we call a cycle degree rally.
Today is the result of Federal Reserve policy pushing people to take on risk.
I might surprise you with this answer, but I don't think really anything is a result of the Fed policy. Now, the Fed, we've had historic monetary and fiscal easing, and the Fed has kept interest rates at 0% basically since 2008, and yet all these other markets I talked about aren't at new highs. In other words, if it was
Elliott Wave principles, how much of what drives your analysis is rooted in demographic and long-term credit cycles like the ones that Hyman Minsky talks about?
Right. Well, there are long-term trends, and we've seen that. For example, we've been in a bull market in Treasury bonds since 1981, when the U.S. Treasury bond was above 15%. And recently, in 2012, the 10-year note hit a all-time record low, 1.37%. So there are definitely long-term cycles and trends. But those cycles and trends really are created by the movement of the crowd, or which we call social mood, from pessimism.
Or technical analysis?
Well, not on technical analysis per se. I mean, dividend yields, in our estimation, are probably the best way to measure valuation within the market. A lot of people use earnings, price to earnings, multiples, and so forth, but earnings are ephemeral, and there's many definitions of earnings. You know, there's regular earnings, there's operating earnings, which came into being in the 1990s. And you remember in the late 1990s, they had pro forma earnings when the market was flying high and they couldn't justify the earnings valuation.
Mood indicators, things like, you know, magazine covers, do those give you any insight into sentiment that's driving prices?
Yeah, that can be a great indicator. I mean, it's so esoteric that one of the reasons it works so well is because no one really believes it. And so the risk in following something like that gives you a little bit of edge over some other people. But yeah, the magazine cover indicator, which was formulated by the late Paul McCrae Montgomery, is a great indicator. And basically, it's...
That was Steve Hochberg, Chief Market Analyst at Elliott Wave International. Time now for today's Big Deal. Big deal time with my favorite guy around, and today we're talking about the Fed and its European counterpart, the ECB. So Ed, let's dive right in. Now, first up, paint me a macro picture of what's going on with monetary policy. What's the deal?
Okay, I'm going to try to do it really quickly.
Now, two Fed officials, Charles Plosser of Philadelphia and Richard Fisher of Dallas, announced their plans to retire next year. And both officials have made it clear that they're not in line with the Fed's stimulus campaign. So what exactly did Plosser and Fisher disagree with in terms of the current stimulus?
Well, basically, they think that you know, the Fed is stoking credit bubbles, and that really the Fed should have a much more. Plosser in particular has talked about, you know, having targets in their currency. It's almost as if they're saying, look, you know, there's not enough demand in the economy. There's a limited pie. We want to take a larger section of that pie. We don't want to grow the pie. We want to sort of divvy up a larger piece for ourselves. That's the definition of competitive currency devaluation, the currency wars. Same thing that Jim Rickards talks about all the time.
They're playing you know, the Chinese game of devaluing your currency, kind of the Chinese monetary policy, if you will. Again,
of manipulating the currency.
Manipulating, and in essence, devaluing it. So, you know, final question: where is this headed? Are we at competitive monetary easing now?
Well, see, you know, when QE first started, you know, everyone was pointing at the United States. The whole thing, the currency war doctrine, you know, Guido Mantega of...
I understand that you think that we're on the verge of a currency war, like Mr. Rickards. Explain, what's going on here?
So as I was saying, we've had the super cycle down to zero rates. The ECB's gone into negative territory, and in fact, two of the ECB's central committee, whatever you call them, their members have come out and said that they actually are targeting the exchange rate with the dollar. They want the euro to go down versus the dollar. This is why they went negative. We won't go negative in the U.S. And so they're
historically that this has ever happened. Is this a symptom of having too many emerged economies?
In the Depression, the original competitive currency devaluation, that's what they called it during the Depression, that people, they untethered to gold, and then they devalued their currency on a competitive basis in order to do the exact same thing.
Fascinating stuff. Ed, as always, such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you. That's all for now, but we love hearing from you. Please check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoomBustRT, and please tweet at us at AaronAid, at EdwardNH, from all of us here at Boom Bust. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.